Hey, welcome to today's video where we complete our series on easy wins in personal finance. We are talking specifically today about how you can create a very easy win by just consolidating your various 401ks and similar plans. We'll talk about why consolidation moves the needle and makes things helpful when it comes to your personal finance and how it can put you in a way better position for retirement by just making a couple of these small little moves. Let's dive into it. Well, Janine, I want to have 5 401ks and 7 IRAs and all these other things. Why do I have to consolidate?
Because more is better, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm diversified. I got all these different plans out there.
Well, speaking of diversified, I remember meeting somebody who had different mutual funds in different IRAs because they thought that was diversified.
Yeah.
And when you actually run the analysis, they actually had 3 or 4 accounts, different names on the funds, but they basically had a lot of overlap because the funds were basically the same.
I had that realization actually just earlier this week with cereal. I thought I was kind of diversifying my cereal options, and then I realized I had just bought all products that were pretty much Rice Krispies, just in different shapes. So I had like the Rice Krispies, I had the Rice Chex, and then I forget what the third one was, but some other basically exact same thing, just in different shapes. And I was like, okay, I'm not as diversified in my cereal servings as I actually thought I was.
That's right. That's right. And unfortunately, a lot of people, because the industry itself has really, I think, fostered this idea, because large custodians, especially employer plan custodians, like to keep the money on their platforms. A lot of people think that their 401ks are free, and they're not. So you get a limited number of options. Some plans are open architecture and huge, and then it's overwhelming because there are 11,000 funds on the plan. So you should consolidate, especially if you've left those firms. You're leaving an absolute disaster for a spouse should something happen to you, because then they have to go to every single administrator of those plans and fill out the paperwork and provide the death certificate and go through the motions and then basically move the money to an inherited IRA or their own IRA in the case of a spouse. So plus you don't have an ability to really look at, do I have an integrated portfolio? And that is the challenge for a lot of people, because it's, how do I take an income? How do I pick and choose what to sell at a time when I'm taking income? That's a freezing point for a lot of people. Well, if you have a portfolio that's properly allocated and integrated, you don't have to worry about that. The income just comes right off pro rata. So it's much easier to do. It's much easier to explain. It's much easier to follow, and it's much more efficient cost-wise and tax-wise. People would be surprised to find that mutual funds, even in 401ks, that there's a tax drag because of how mutual funds operate. So you're talking about up to a 2% tax drag alone, not mentioning managerial costs, et cetera, in the funds themselves. So that's a problem. It's something you can't control. It's what the managers do. It's how the fund is created, basically, and operates. So you can't control that. So if I move it, if I consolidate to an IRA, to an individual account, a joint account, then my tax ramifications long term is going to be impactful on income.
Easier to just figure out and calculate too,
right? Much, much easier. And what a lot of people don't realize is, because of rules coming out of Congress on the Secure Act, that inheritance rules change. So if you want to be able to build a plan going forward that benefits your family and not the IRS, you really should look at consolidating and then developing a plan going forward for distributions, et cetera. And then, reduce costs, reduce taxes. That's really important. But yeah, if you have 4, 5, 6, I've seen more, different accounts for retirement that are retirement accounts, 401ks, et cetera, 403bs, you're really making a mess for yourself and your spouse potentially.
I can see an emotional side to this too popping up, where I don't know. I kind of think about this right now, looking at like our own retirement plans for Connie and I, and we've got to the point now where we've been, bounced around to enough places where we've got a couple of Roths. We've got Roths, we've got a couple of IRAs that we'd started, and then she's got an old 401k. I did actually roll over I consolidated an old 401k at one point in time. She's got her old company's 403b hunting out there. And now she's in a position with her current job where not only does she have the 403b, but a 457 and a 401a plan. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so many different accounts to look at. And it would be more impressive to look at all of them under one umbrella, right? Like if this was all just one number under one account, that would make me feel more motivated, right? So instead of a bunch of like smaller numbers, saying one big number would motivate me to save more. I know that's psychological and it works the same if it's spread out over others, but I think there's room for that as part of the discussion.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And all these different numbers, 457, 403, et cetera, 401a, and those are all codes in the IRS code. And even though they're all qualified, they do respond a little bit differently in terms of what the rule, they don't respond, but the rules surrounding them are a little bit different. But yeah, you some of these can be consolidated, some of them cannot. If you have a 457F, which is from a private company or a publicly traded company, you are not going to be able to, you cannot roll that to an IRA. Big, huge tax hit potentially. So taking a look at what you have and how it works, and then trying to integrate as best as possible, so that the other thing that happens with a proper portfolio, a proper allocate, we put halos on our portfolio, which is holistic, holistic asset location and allocation and location.
Sounds like what dolphins use to communicate, like echolocation.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really important.
Sorry, that was my dad joke for the day.
Okay.
And not a good one.
I mean, it's important so that you can understand what it is you have and how it works and how to optimize the income from it, especially if you're going into retirement or you're in retirement.
Makes sense and very helpful to get that perspective. Thank you so much for that, Janine. I'm thinking the consolidate old 401ks. I mean, I didn't think we would go that deep into, I didn't realize that there was that much that would be benefited from doing that. I thought it was really just that mental component, but you talked about all sorts of additional benefits from consolidating old 401ks and considering rollovers and all these other kinds of things. So
yeah, it's important to have that assessment and to have an integrated plan.
Well, there you have it, folks. Reasons why to consolidate your old 401k. Another easy win in personal finance. But just because it's only moving a couple of things around or checking in on something doesn't mean it's always easy to do it on your own. But if you work with a professional, it can be very easy to implement some of these strategies. And if you'd like to talk about consolidating old 401ks and any other financial components that might be going on in your life, and as you look toward retirement in the future, talk to Janine about them. You can get in touch very easily and set up a complimentary financial review. Just go to theuswealthadvisors.com. That's theuswealthadvisors.com, or call 443-718-6311. That's 443-718-6311. Janine, thank you so much for your help, and we'll look forward to chatting with you on YouTube and next time around.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Walter. Talk to you soon.
All right. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe this video. We should appreciate the support and look forward to making more great content for you. We'll see you next time right here on Rockin' Retirement.